Welcome back to ILTV News. As we begin, Israel's Independence Day tonight. Today marked a difficult day for Israelis as thousands of people honored their loved ones killed this year in battle or by terrorism for Yom HaZikaron. A 2-minute siren sounded at 11 a.m. to honor the innocent lives lost. But after we remember and mourn, Israel is beginning celebrations tonight for Israel's 77th Independence Day. ILTV's Shosh Bedrosian is in studio now to discuss with us. Shosh?
Yeah, so these holidays, they sit back to back. Of course, it's a large contrast of emotion for Israelis and difficult for a lot. This is a day people have to confront their pain, confront that their loved ones are no longer here. We're talking fallen soldiers, people who have died, who were murdered in terrorist attacks. Just to name a few, we had 12 children killed this year in Majd al-Shams. We had 7 people killed in a shooting attack by terrorists in Jaffa, in Tel Aviv, and several other ramming, stabbing attacks as well. But after Israelis mourn today, they will celebrate tonight, and let's take a look now. Thousands of Israelis are expected to take to the streets tonight to celebrate Israel's 77th Independence Day, marking a complicated yet historic year filled with difficult emotions. As Israel thwarted significant attacks from Iran's terror proxies surrounding the country to intercepting and protecting millions of citizens in unprecedented Iranian attacks to securing the release of hostages that were in Hamas captivity. These pivotal moments have shaped Israel's leadership and continued fight in the region and allowed for 25 Israeli hostages to get a second chance at life. In an annual report ahead of Independence Day, the Central Bureau of Statistics said Israel's population is now topping more than 10 million people, marking a 12 times increase since the country was founded in 1948. The number represents an increase of 135,000 people over the previous year, which includes a 77% Jewish population. The report also indicated 2.1 million people living in Israel are Muslim, Christian, or Druze Arabs. Meanwhile, another 250,000 people belong to a category called neither, which includes international students, foreign workers, or undocumented immigrants. It also outlined that about 3.5 million people immigrated to Israel since 1948. Now, the Independence Day ceremony will take place tonight and is taking place tonight in Jerusalem at Mount Herzl. We have 12 torches that will be lit by 35 different people. They include this year Eli Shorabi and Emily Damari, 2 released hostages from this past ceasefire.
All right, well, we will look forward to that ceremony. And now, during the day today, Israel remembered and honored those fallen soldiers and victims of terror. 25,420 fallen soldiers since 1860 and 5,229 victims of terror since 1851. In the past year alone, 319 soldiers were killed in combat, along with 61 soldiers who died of injuries from prior wars. It was an especially difficult Memorial Day due to the loss of many Israelis during the past year of these multi-front wars. We have more from ILTV's Steve Leibowitz.
319 soldiers and 79 civilians were killed since last Memorial Day. The number includes 61 disabled veterans who died due to complications from injuries sustained during their service. The numbers bring the total to 25,420 of those who have died during service to the country since 1860, the year from which Israel, and before it the Jewish community in the region, counts its fallen. In his address at the Western Wall ceremony in Jerusalem, President Isaac Herzog pleaded with the public to put aside division and work for peace across Israeli society. He opened with a message to the 59 hostages remaining in Gaza.
אני פונה עליכם מכאן אל אחינו שבידי המרצחים. עם שלם חסר אתכם, דואג לכם, זועק את זעקתכם. עם שלם מיוסר עד אין קץ. עם שלם יודע בכל נימי נפשו החרוכה מגעגוע ודאגה, שהפצע לא יגליד עד שתשובו אליו, עד שתשובו אלינו.
Prime Minister Netanyahu spoke of the heroism of the soldiers fighting in Israel's wars since October 7th.
מאז מתקפת שמחת תורה, טבח ה-7 באוקטובר, משרתי צה"ל וזרועות הביטחון מתגלים במלוא תפארתם. הם מסתערים על מבקשי נפשנו בכל החזיתות. הם לוחמים כאריות להשגת הניצחון. הם מוסרים את נפשם כדי ליצור את התנאים להחזרת חטופינו היקרים, שנמצאים כל הזמן לנגד עינינו. השבתם הביתה היא משימה קדושה. לא נרפה ממנה. כולם מבינים מול מי אנחנו נלחמים ועל מה אנחנו נלחמים.
IDF Chief of Staff Zamir said Hamas is mistaken about the army's determination to return the hostages and fight until victory. The army chief also said, "We must remember we are in a multi-front war for the very existence of the State of Israel." The IDF Widows and Orphans Organization held a memorial event at the Museum of Tolerance in Jerusalem for English speakers. Former Mossad Chief Yossi Cohen addressed the key security issues.
And now joining us to discuss this transition from mourning the loss of our heroes who defended the nation into a resilient celebration of Israel's independence is the remarkable Captain Maya Bentwitch, who has led over 100 high-level delegations in Israel's Gaza border communities in the immediate aftermath of the October 7th massacre. Maya, thank you so much for joining us today here in the studio. To start, we're transitioning from this deep mourning, especially this year, into a celebration, Yom Ha'atzmaut. How difficult is the transition this year in particular?
So I think you're touching spot on. I think that it's always been a really difficult transition, and there are different and various opinions about it. This year particularly, I think even more so than the past year, is extremely difficult, and you hear firsthand from some of the hostage families that we cannot celebrate our independence when we still have 59 hostages that are held in Hamas captivity in Gaza. I think that this transition embodies a part of the Israeli and the Jewish spirit. We need to stop to mourn our loved ones and their loss, and we're experiencing this daily, every day. And I think that today, we spoke about it earlier, you walk around Israel and there's a feeling in your gut and you feel it. With that being said, we do have the same responsibility to have hope in our hearts and to create a better future, but to call it true independence, my personal perspective is that this year it's extremely complicated. I'm not sure it's the right terminology.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you've been witness through your army service to so much pain and suffering, perhaps more than any other single individual being there every single day. I wanted to ask you, how has your experience in the IDF shaped your Yom HaZikaron and Yom Ha'atzmaut experience?
Thanks for asking. I want to read you real quick something that I found that I wrote at the age of 17. So it's just a little bit translated to English. This is the contrast between life and death. This is the contrast we live with every single day in our Israel. On the very same day, we mourn our loved ones taken away too soon and celebrate our homeland and freedom. Connecting to what we spoke about, and this is at the age of 17. So the reality of being an Israeli and growing up here, you're used to it, but this past year, once again, is extremely difficult, and we have the obligation to stop and to mark it. Witnessing the October 7th massacre and the atrocities that took place there and speaking about it day in and day out for 6 months straight, and then continuing to talk about it and to advocate for our people, it is the single most horrific attack against Jews since the Holocaust. And we just marked Yom HaShoah last week. The whole combination of what's going on right now, especially in Israel and in the Jewish world, is extremely complex. And yet, being down there for 6 months and to see the residents of the kibbutzim, the residents and the soldiers and the miluimnikim, my partner being one of them, that are here to not only protect our homeland and not only unite and be united as a people, not just as Israelis, as Jews around the world, and we have an obligation to one another, but to see their resilience and their strength is what gave me the strength and the courage to continue speaking up after the Miluim. And I think that this embodies exactly what we're talking about here today, Emily. This fine line and distinction between mourning and yet the need to create a better future, to have hope, and to be united. We are seeing a lot of divisions within Israel and from without, and we need to overcome those. And I think for me, this is what it's about. I think about it daily. I see the miluimnikim, the reservists, I see the members of the kibbutzim, and I feel like I have no right to not be here and to not be doing what I'm doing and to not create a better future, to be able to say we're celebrating Yom Ha'atzmaut, because I'm not sure we are this year.
We'll get to that in a moment. But I did want to ask you, is there a particular experience or perhaps a person, a story that you experienced from your service that really symbolizes this Israeli dichotomy between the intense mourning and the resilience and overcoming that in Yom Ha'atzmaut?
Sure. So I think there are so many stories. I don't want to focus on one. I want to embody the members of Kibbutz Kfar Aza that have become my second home and a close part of my heart and of who I am. When we first got there, I came wearing a uniform. And they would laugh, we call it bdichot shchorot, black jokes, you know, black humor. And they would say, you're here now, where were you on October 7th? And I came as a miluimnikit, as a reservist, I was a welfare officer. And to see the way that they're able to joke about it right after, even a couple of weeks after, and yet to embrace, to hug, to bring me specifically, I think, but all of us into their community, and to be exactly at that friction point of telling the story and yet keeping them safe and their privacy safe. And specifically in Kibbutz Kfar Aza, again, the same sort of people that I'm talking about. Kfar Aza, the Protective Community Squad, the Kitat Konenut, half of it was murdered, was killed because they fought on October 7th. And you saw the people that stepped up and that were there the first days and that are still there defending their kibbutz and standing up. And I think when you see that resilience and that strength, even though there are so many difficulties and so many different perspectives, even within each community, even within the community of the kibbutz, after going through October 7th in their mamads and fighting, the people that stand up and that are still there, and again, there are endless stories, I think it embodies exactly what we're talking about.
Truly the Israeli spirit for a lot of those survivors 100%. Of October 7th, both Nova and in those kibbutz communities. And I want to ask you this year, as a last question, we are still mourning. Even though we're celebrating Yom Ha'atzmaut, we still have 59 hostages who are still being held in Gaza. In your view, how can Israeli society still celebrate Yom Ha'atzmaut while we still have 59 in captivity?
I think we can't celebrate. I think we need to mark. And I think we need to be aware of the terminology. And I think that there is a deep question. And I'm sure different people will answer it in different views. And that's okay, because we need to overcome our differences. With that being said, I don't think that independence, I don't think that atzmaut is the right word. How can we say that we're celebrating or, again, not celebrating? I think we're marking freedom when we have 59 hostages held in Hamas captivity. What I think that this transition is about is that resilience, that strength, and the need to build a better future so that we will be able to celebrate.
Absolutely. All right. Well, unfortunately, we are out of time, but I want to thank you, Captain Maya Bentwitch, for your insight and all the work that you're doing.
Thanks so much.
Well, the World Zionist Congress elections will be completed next week. Known as the Parliament of the Jewish People, held every 5 years, these elections help determine how nearly $1 billion is allocated to support Israel and Jewish communities around the world. The Israel 365 action slate is focused on reinforcing Zionist values, stopping the push for a Palestinian state, strengthening the bond between Jews and Christians, and defending Judea and Samaria, especially in the wake of October 7th. Let's take a look.
Zionism not only comes through a theory or an idea, it's action. And that's who we are. We're all about action. So we're standing right now in Oz Vegaon. Oz Vegaon was named for the 3 boys that were kidnapped, and it is Naftali, Ayal, and Gilad. And we're here experiencing what real Zionism and pioneering looks like. This place was totally dilapidated, and it was totally muznach, as we say, ignored. And wonderful people came here and literally from the ground up started building this.
You see these signs along the walkway here. What's the significance of the signs?
I think the quotes are here to understand why we're here and why we need to be here. You need to be here and have presence in order to actually own it. And that's why we're here with Israel 365 Action, because we believe not only in supporting what exists, it's expanding what exists. When you build something, you own it. And here I'm reading a sign. It says, when the Jewish people redeem the land of Israel will redeem the Jewish people. I believe that's what happened here. There's so many values to be learned from building a place like this. When you feel like something is yours, you take care of it. It's like raising a baby. When you're invested, when you give love, that's when you get the love. And that's what this park represents to me.
Even though it's part of the land of Israel, was kind of in exile. Geula, redemption, if it's about anything, it's about taking the land of Israel and bringing it back to life, taking tragedies and turning them into beautiful places like this.
As Jews, we know that we are expected to bring the redemption based on our actions, based on our merits, based on the things that we believe in and what we put our heart and soul into.
As you see, right here in the hills of Judea is where the true Zionism is alive and well today, taking parts of the land of Israel that everyone else is neglecting and even willing to surrender to our enemies and bringing them back to life. Now more than ever, we need to strengthen this land and these areas and this work here in the land of Israel. There is only 1 week left to vote in the World Zionist Congress elections. We need you right now to go to Israel365action.com, follow the instructions there, vote in the World Zionist Congress elections. We are bringing real Zionism back to life in the land.
In a rapidly changing Middle East, Israel must stay ahead of emerging threats. What cutting-edge technologies will keep Israel safe? Brigadier General Professor Jacob Nagel reveals the bold strategies and breakthrough defense tech he recently recommended to Prime Minister Netanyahu in an exclusive security briefing from the American Technion Society.
Iran is weaker than ever, and someone has to take the opportunity doing something about it.
Visit ats.org/Nagel to watch the full briefing now.
The Trump administration has continued its demand from universities to deal with their pervasive anti-Semitism problem or face major cuts in funding. Harvard already saw $2.2 billion nixed, but instead of adhering to the government's demands, they've doubled down. Let's take a look. In a move that many see as too little, too late, Harvard University has released a report on anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. But critics say it's a distraction from their failure to address a growing crisis on campus. And it's not a crisis of Islamophobia. The report comes amid escalating national backlash and a potential loss of federal funding after President Trump announced a $2.2 billion freeze over Harvard's inaction on anti-Semitism. But rather than enacting sweeping reforms to protect Jewish students, Harvard appears more concerned with political blame shifting, framing the issue as a response to political pressure rather than a genuine commitment to civil rights. The report contains few substantive policy changes and ignores key incidents like student groups praising Hamas after October 7th. Experts say Harvard is hiding behind buzzwords instead of taking responsibility. With donors pulling support and Washington watching closely, the question remains, is Harvard interested in protecting its Jewish students or just protecting its image? It's day 572 of the war in Gaza, and the IDF is continuing its offensive to pressure Hamas on the ground and from the air. ILTV's Steve Leibowitz has the latest.
IDF airstrikes killed a leading PFLP terrorist and 2 Hamas terrorists in Gaza. The PFLP terrorist, Ali Sarfiti, was killed in an airstrike in Gaza City. He had been jailed between 2002 and 2015 over terror attacks he carried out and for planning to conduct a suicide attack in Israel. In recent years, he provided funds to terrorists in Judea and Samaria to carry out attacks in Israel. The IDF also killed Saeed Abu Khasnan, a Nukba terrorist who invaded Kisufim during the October 7th massacre and planned terror attacks against IDF troops in Gaza. Meanwhile, reports of a potential breakthrough in the hostage for ceasefire deal appear to be exaggerated. Reuters had reported that Egyptian security officials were saying that talks were nearing a significant breakthrough. An Israeli official now says the talks were heading in the opposite direction. According to Reuters, an agreement has been reached regarding a long-term ceasefire, but there are still points of contention that remain to be bridged. The differences reportedly relate to Hamas' ability to rearm and recover during an extended ceasefire with the goal to continue its war against Israel.
And now for some heartwarming news. Israeli individuals who suffered severe trauma, October 7th survivors and released hostages, are using tattoo art as a method of healing from trauma to resilience. ILTV's Devo Klein has more details.
At a temporary tattoo event in Tel Aviv, Israeli survivors of the October 7th Hamas massacre and former hostages are reclaiming their bodies in a unique way. From trauma to resilience, these survivors aren't just getting new ink, they're commemorating and honoring their loved ones.
Ronen, my husband, his body is still in Gaza, and he was a photographer, so this tattoo is for him.
Karina explained that the choice of the camera was in honor of her late husband, who was a photographer. She shared their story.
We was in captivity 52 days, a very long 52 days.
Also receiving a tattoo is Gal Gilboa Dalal, a survivor of the Nova Music Festival and brother of Guy Gilboa Dalal, who on day 572 of the Gaza war is still being held hostage by Hamas.
2 months ago, one of the released hostages told me that he was with Guy almost the whole time, and that Guy, my brother, doesn't know if I survived the Nova Festival, but he wished that I did. And he told him that if I did, he wants him to send me a message that he is waiting to be reunited with me, and he's thinking about the song Gunslinger by Avenged Sevenfold. And it was like crazy to hear it. It's like a cosmic connection that I couldn't explain. And I said, okay, I have to get a tattoo.
Healing through tattoo art is more than just a commemoration of loved ones, but it is also an opportunity to heal and reclaim trauma.
Tattoos let people reclaim their body. October 7th was done to Israel. These are Israelis now saying, I am choosing, I am back in control of my life and my world. And also for those who were physically injured, it's a great way to cover their scars and to show their bodies the way they want.
And now, are you interested in learning Hebrew? Have a look at eTeacher, an online and live course with the most established Hebrew language instruction institution. For more info on the Rosen School of Hebrew, please scan the QR code on your screen now.
Instead of being left out of another Hebrew conversation, learn Hebrew at the Rosen School of Hebrew and finally get in on the conversation. Only to learn it's about sports and be left out of it again. Whether for cultural enrichment, practical use, or academic interest, Rosen's online courses are the Goldilocks way to learn Hebrew, which means you will get taught by real-life, attentive teachers. Yes, the living, breathing kind, unlike in any of those impersonal language apps. Yet, unlike an old-fashioned pun, you won't have to schlep yourself to a physical classroom in order to meet them. Our sophisticated platform adapts to your needs, making study accessible and engaging. Being the world's most experienced online Hebrew school equates to over 20 years of perfecting our methods, with expert scholars who'll teach you by providing guidance, patience, and care. This is done in small classes through hand immersion and gesture techniques, meaning absolutely no English is required, contrary to the competitors. So come gain access to both the practical need for communication and the emotional desire for a deeper connection to Israel. Our program promises to equip you with the ability to speak, read, and write Hebrew fluently. Choose a standard or academic path to earn a certificate upon completion. Join the thousands of our successful graduates. Enroll today.
And just before we go to the weather, Israel is facing intense wildfires in the Jerusalem area today, with over 119 firefighting teams and 10 aircrafts battling the raging fires that have led to the evacuation of at least 4 communities. Israel has also appealed for international assistance in battling the flames, and thus far, Cyprus has offered to send assistance. And now let's take a look at that weather forecast. Partly cloudy skies are expected around most of the country tonight, with temperatures reaching lows of around 18 degrees Celsius or 65 degrees Fahrenheit. Then tomorrow we'll see clear skies alongside warm temperatures, seeing highs of 24 degrees Celsius or 76 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a wrap for today's news. For the latest updates from Israel on all your devices, be sure to follow our ILTV channel, subscribe to our newsletter, and explore our website, ILTV.tv. Stay informed with the latest news straight from the heart of Israel. I'm Emily Schrader. Be well, Chag Atzmaut Sameach, and thank you so much for watching.